It seems like almost every year more and more teams are entering the NASCAR Cup Series. Just this year alone, we've seen new teams such as GMS and KAULIG Racing enter the scene. And the year before that, teams like TRACKHOUSE, Live Fast Racing, and 2311 also entered the series. With so many new teams joining and so many teams leaving, such as Chip Ganassi Racing, it kind of begs the question, who is the best team in NASCAR? Who has the best equipment, the best drivers? Who fields the most championship caliber drivers in the series? Today, I am going to run down my top 10 teams in the NASCAR Cup Series. There's no really official stats to tell you who is the best, rather than just my opinion and a general census of what teams are better than others. So here's my rundown. Starting off with the honorable mentions, I have two of them. First up is JTG Daugherty Racing. They got off to a really slow start this year, but they have made it up with, I believe, 4 top 10s within the last 6 races. So that team's really getting a turnaround. Plus, they have veteran driver Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who I believe can be a very solid driver if put in a competitive car. And also Wood Brothers Racing. Ever since letting go of Matt DiBenedetto, that team really has fallen apart. Harrison Burton's barely inside the top 30 in points, and he can barely run inside the top 25 on a weekly basis. He's a young driver, inexperienced, probably caught up too early, but that team has really been off this year. Alright, so starting off at number 10, KAULIG Racing. This is their first year in the NASCAR Cup Series. They field 2 cars, the 31 of Justin Haley, who's a rookie this year, and they field the 16 car, who is split by 3 different drivers, AJ Allmendinger, Daniel Hemrick, and Noah Gragson. Each of them split time throughout the season, with AJ Allmendinger doing most of the road courses, Daniel Hemrick doing most of the short tracks and super speedways, and then most of the intermediate tracks belong to Noah Gragson. So far, Justin Haley actually hasn't been that bad. He's been plagued by bad luck and bad pit stops all year long. But if he has some clean races, I firmly believe that Justin Haley could be inside of the top 20 and even the top 16 in points right now. So coming in at number 9, we have RFK Racing, otherwise known as Roush Fenway Keselowski. They brought over former champion Brad Keselowski to the team this year as co-owner of the team and a driver. So far, that team hasn't really been off to a great start. They did win the Daytona duel, both of them actually, with Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski. But after winning both duels, that team has really had some bad luck. Brad Keselowski was marked with a 100-point penalty early on in the season, making it near impossible to get a playoff spot unless he wins a race. Chris Buescher got COVID-19 and was forced to miss out of Gateway, but he will be returning tomorrow at Sonoma. Brad Keselowski only has 1 top 10 on the season, that coming out the Daytona 500, while Chris Buescher does have 4. Those results are still not where they want to be. At number 8, we have Petty GMS Racing. Richard Petty Motorsports has been on the decline with the 43 car for a couple of years now. GMS, mostly prevalent in the NASCAR Truck Series, wanted to come on board with the 94 car this year and start their own team. But later in the offseason, it was announced that they would be joining forces to form Petty GMS Racing. The 43 car is fielded by Eric Jones, with the 42 car driven by Ty Dillon. So far this year, Ty Dillon hasn't done too much. He definitely hasn't lit the world on fire, but he hasn't been terrible. He's kind of just ran where everyone pretty much thought he would run. But on the other hand, his teammate, Eric Jones, has been really good and really a bright spot for that team. Eric Jones had some standout performances like the one that we saw at Fontana, where he led a ton of laps on battling for a win. And he's kind of done that all season. He's been running inside of the top 10 and occasionally even the top 5. Eric Jones is only 20 points out of a playoff spot right now, and that's because of just bad luck and not being able to finish the race. Eric Jones could really be a playoff contender this year, and I say that with 100% confidence. Number 7, Richard Childress Racing, aka RCR. This team fields 2 cars, the number 3 car, made famous by Dale Earnhardt Sr. in the late 90s, and the upcoming star Tyler Reddick, who drives in number 8. Austin Dillon is an alright driver. I wouldn't really put him up there with, some of the likes of Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, or even Alex Bowman for that. I feel like he's just kind of a mid-pack driver. It doesn't really matter what equipment you put him in. He's just going to be like a mid-pack driver. Right now, both of them are 16th and 17th on the playoff grid. But besides Austin Dillon, Tyler Reddick has really broken out this year. Tyler Reddick, it seems like he's always inside the top 10 and even the top 5. He's always up there leading laps, but he always just gets caught up in someone else's miss. It seems like Tyler Reddick is always leading laps, and then before you know it, they come back from a commercial break, and there you go, he's up in the wall. That guy cannot catch a break seriously, and I really feel for the dude. He should probably have 2 wins right now or be like 100 points above the cut line, but instead, he's right on that bubble. He's definitely been the breakout star for Richard Childress this year, and he's definitely been carrying that team on his back. Number 6, I have 2311 Racing. So 2311 added a second car this year, the number 45 veteran driver and ex-NASCAR Cup Series champion Kurt Busch. He joined forces with Bubba Wallace to form that 2-car team, and this year, it's kind of hard to make of them. I did have a video talking about Bubba Wallace and somewhat Kurt Busch that I put out a couple weeks ago. If you haven't checked that out already, go check it out. I actually am very proud of that video, and I thought that some of the stuff I said in there really made sense and would kind of be agreed to a certain extent by you guys. This year, Kurt Busch does have a win that he got at Kansas where he pretty much dominated that race. And Kurt Busch has shown really good speed. But for both Kurt and Bubba, they have just been plagued by incidents on track and terrible luck. Every single week, it's like they're almost always getting into a wreck. Those guys cannot catch a break at all. Whether it's their fault or not, they cannot catch a break. Kurt Busch, though, has been showing some really good speed. I constantly see his name inside the top 15, the top 10, and sometimes even the top 5. But Bubba Wallace, on the other hand, hasn't really been as good as Kurt Busch. His pit crew has let him down a few times this year, but for the most part, Bubba's really just running around 20th to 15th like we saw last year. Last year, he had some excuses, new team and everything. This year, when you have your teammate winning races and running inside the top 10, there's not really an excuse for you to be running 20th on the track. But I do believe that equipment and those cars are good, and I do believe that team is set up for future success if Bubba can just get going. And cracking in with the top 5, we have STEWART-HAAS Racing. This team has been on the decline for a few years now, really starting last year in 2021. You look at their driver lineup right now, you have an aging Kevin Harvick who's past his prime, Chase Briscoe, who is a young and upcoming rookie, but has shown a little bit of promise this year. Cole Custer, which I don't even think I need an explanation. He is just downright terrible. Then you have Eric Almirola in the 10 car, aka just a younger version of Paul Menard, who really hasn't done much his entire career and is retiring after this season. So you look at that driver lineup, and it's not really the greatest. I think the equipment on that team is actually pretty good and better than it shows, but that driver lineup just really isn't good. They might be able to add some new pieces, such as a Ryan Preece, Eric Jones, or a Kyle Busch after the season, but as of right now, they're just not running where that team should be. They definitely have the potential to be a better team. And number 4, I have the breakout team from this year, Trackhouse Racing. Nobody, and I mean nobody, expected Trackhouse to be as good as they are this year. Ross Chastain has 2 wins on the season, 2nd in points, 1st in the playoff standings, and has really been the breakout star and talk of the NASCAR world. Whether you like him or hate him for his over-aggressive style of racing, Ross Chastain has been so good this year, and you can't deny that. As far as the other hand, his teammate Daniel Suarez has shown really good speed, but just cannot catch a break and keeps getting caught up in wrecks and not finishing these races that he really needs to finish. He's currently on the playoff bubble right now, and Suarez really needs to finish one of these races these days and get some good valuable points if he wants to make the playoffs. Ross Chastain, though, on the other hand, has been so good all year long, and that team in general has just been so fun to watch. Trackhouse Racing is definitely the next coming of Hendrick Motorsports in the future, and I can really see that. That team has the potential to be one of the dominant forces in NASCAR going forward, and they've just recently announced a 3rd car will be fielded in the 2023 season called Project 91. Going into the top 3, some of you may have thought this team would be a little bit higher, but I have Joe Gibbs Racing. Before we talk about the equipment, let's talk about that driver lineup. They have one of the most stacked in the NASCAR Cup Series. They have Denny Hamlin, former 3-time Daytona 500 winner and team owner over at 2311 Racing. He already has 2 wins on the season, but has been plagued by bad luck all year. Kyle Busch, an aging veteran but 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, one of the greatest of all time, whether you love him or hate him. Martin Truex Jr., a former 2017 NASCAR Cup Series champion. an experienced veteran who will be sure to get you good finishes and wins. But he does have an uncertain future at that team, and uncertain future in NASCAR, as there have been talks about retirement lately. So that could bring in the possibility for a new driver next year. And then you have the up-and-coming Christopher Bell, who does have one win coming in 2021 and has shown very good speed this year after the first dozen races. One of the most stacked driver lineups in the sport, yet they've kind of been a little bit off this year. Yeah, Kyle Busch has a win, Denny Hamlin has two, but Martin Truex Jr. hasn't really performed up to par with what we're used to, and Eric Jones hasn't really competed for a win yet. While both of them have ran inside the top 10, as far as wins go, they haven't really been there towards the end. And even Kyle Busch's win, he wasn't really racing for the win. He was kind of just sitting back in third when Chase Briscoe made a very aggressive move on Tyler Reddick. And all year, Denny Hamlin has not been up to par with what we're used to. He's constantly been wrecking out of races. He's not even inside the top 15 in points right now. And he does have two wins, I'll give him that. But he really has not been himself this year. Definitely still have some of the best, if not the best, equipment in all of NASCAR. But they've kind of been in a little bit of a slump this year. And that's definitely not to go unnoticed. So coming in at number 2, I have Team Penske. Team Penske fields 3 cars, the rookie Austin Cindric, who did win the Daytona 500 this year, Joey Logano, who has 2 wins on the season at Gateway, and Darlington. I still hate him for that Darlington race. And then they have the 12 car of Ryan Blaney, who did win the All-Star race this year, so I'll give him that. But he has been super consistent. That team has always been good. They let go of Brad Keselowski at the end of the season last year, so he could go join RFK in somewhat of an ownership role. And they replaced him with rookie Austin Cindric, who was not disappointed. Austin Cindric has kind of ran around the 15th mark where we expected him to, but he won a stage at Gateway, was very competitive in the Texas All-Star race, and won the Daytona 500, putting him right inside the playoffs. The Fords have kind of been off all year, but Penske consistently has shown speed on a weekly basis. If drivers like Ryan Blaney and Austin Cindric could break out, and it looks like they're about to get a deal done with Joey Logano to remain in the future, Team Penske could definitely be at this number 1 spot. But rather than Team Penske, Hendrick Motorsports is at the number 1 spot. Yeah, call me biased all you want. I'm definitely a Hendrick fanboy. But there's no denying that Hendrick Motorsports is most likely the best team in NASCAR right now. One of the most stacked driver lineups I have ever seen. The fan favorite, the 9 of Chase Elliott, the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series champion, won earlier this year at Dover. Kyle Larson, the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, re-cemented his legacy and his career last year, winning 10 races and has a win this year at Fontana. Alex Bowman, the guy who came out of absolutely nowhere in 2018, won 4 races last year, was eliminated in the round of 12, has shown a lot of consistency this year, and does have a win at Las Vegas. And my favorite driver, the guy who already has 2 wins on the season at both Martinsville and Atlanta, has shown amazing speed this year, and will definitely be in contention for championships going towards the future. Let's start off with Chase Elliott. Everyone in the beginning of the year was saying that Chase Elliott was in a slump, and that is completely not the case. I did not agree from that from day one. Chase Elliott has not been in a slump all year. Just because a guy doesn't win a race within the first 10 races of a season does not mean he's in a slump. Chase Elliott has been leading the point standings for most of the season now, and does have a win at Dover, which I did see in person, so that was pretty cool. But Chase Elliott has been really good this year, and so has his teammate William Byron. Byron has 2 wins this year, but he only has 4 top 10s in 15 races. That's a little bit alarming, but if you look at it, William Byron has one of the best running averages in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's always inside the top 10 and the top 5, but something just always ends up happening to him that's not his doing or his problem. Like it's the Coke 600 where he was running inside the top 5, then got caught up in Ryan Blaney's wreck. Or it's a track like Kansas where he was leading the race, but then blew a tire. William Byron has always been up there this season and has always been a threat to win races, and he has won 3 stages on the season. That team just really needs to get some luck on their side, as it's nor the driver or the crew chief's doing. And that pit crew has been really good this year. They really just need to run into some good fortune. Then you have his teammate, Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman does have a win this year at Las Vegas. And a lot of people last year were saying that Alex Bowman was not that good. He had 4 wins on the year last year, but was kind of inconsistent with an average finish around 14th. Definitely the weak link of Hendrick Motorsports last year, but this year has shown a lot of consistency with 9 top 10s to start off the season, and he's right up there in points. So Alex Bowman has really proven the haters wrong this year and showing that he is more than just a guy who will come out every 10 weeks or so and randomly win a race. And then we have to talk about the defending champion, Kyle Larson. Larson has a win this year at Fontana, but has even admitted in some interviews that he's really struggled getting a hold of this new car. Larson hasn't really been the Kyle Larson that we saw last year, just absolutely dominating races and having upwards of 10 wins. Rather, he's been running inside the top 10 and top 5 every single week, but something always goes wrong with that team. Whether it's something on pit road or Larson getting into the wall or spinning out, that new car has really been a challenge for that 5 team. But with one of the youngest driver lineups in NASCAR today, Hendrick Motorsports is set up very well for the future and the present. So tell me your guys' list in the comments below. That will do it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you are new. This is Real Talk Racing. Catch you guys later.